Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to imagine the seductive promise of this entire decade, all wrapped up in a single concept.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a world where every single child, I mean, whether they're in a high-tech classroom in Silicon Valley or a rural village school somewhere, has a personal tutor.
And not just any tutor. We're talking about one that is infinitely patient, it's available 24/7, never gets tired, and it knows exactly why you're stuck on that math problem.
Right. It sounds like the ultimate equalizer.
It does.
It sounds like the magic bullet we've been waiting for in education for, I don't know, 100 years. But as we often find on these deep dives, that magic bullet usually comes with a pretty heavy recoil.
It does. And that is exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at a really challenging, I'd say slightly alarming, article by Johan Steyn. It's titled The Scalable Tutor, Bridging AI Learning and Inequality Risk.
Steyn's a heavy hitter in this space. He's an AI thought leader. But what I like is that he sits right at that messy intersection of technology, politics, and, the future of our kids.
Yeah, exactly. He's not just looking at the code.
No.
He's looking at the blast radius of the code.
Yeah.
And the central tension of this deep dive, the mission, really, is to explore the question Steyn poses. It's a fork in the road.
Right.
Will AI become the world's most scalable tutor? Or is it, destined to become the world's most scalable inequality machine?
Which is a heavy question, because when I first hear AI tutors for everyone, my brain just goes to, great, problem solved.
Of course.
How could a tool that helps people learn possibly be a bad thing? If it's software and it's on the cloud, surely it democratizes genius.
That is the intuitive reaction. It's the tech optimist view. But the core argument we're going to explore is that availability is not the same thing as access. Just because the software exists doesn't mean it lands the same way in a wealthy suburb as it does in an underfunded district.
So before we get into the doom and gloom, let's paint the picture of the promise. Steyn references a vision laid out in Fortune.
Right, by Jose Manuel Barroso and Stephen Hodges. And they paint a pretty incredible picture of what they call a new age of learning.
A new age of learning.
And it is compelling. They aren't talking about replacing teachers. Let's be really clear on that.
Okay.
They are talking about scaffolding. In education, scaffolding is that support structure you put around a student to help them reach that next level of understanding.
Which is usually a human tutor hovering over your shoulder.
A human tutor, exactly, correcting your form, giving you that little nudge.
Which is incredibly expensive and, impossible to scale to millions of kids.
Precisely. But the vision here is that AI acts as a learning accelerator. It provides that scaffolding instantly. If you're stuck on homework at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, the teacher isn't there.
But the AI is.
But the AI is. It offers immediate feedback loops. Hey, you missed that step. Try this. And theoretically, it unlocks potential that would otherwise just stall out.
I love that term, learning accelerator. It makes me think of those exoskeletons in sci-fi movies. You put it on, and suddenly you can lift a car.
That's a great analogy.
The idea is that these tools help students lift these cognitive weights they couldn't handle alone.
And in that vision, no student gets left behind simply because of a logistical gap. If you have the will to learn, the tool is there. But, and here's the pivot, Steyn points out that this optimistic vision has a massive condition attached.
Let me guess. It involves humans actually having to coordinate with each other.
You got it in one. They explicitly state that this new age only works if governments, tech firms, and educators move in. Sync.
Wow!
That one word is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It is.
Because if there's one thing I know about global tech giants, cash-strapped school districts, and government bureaucracies, it's that they're famous for moving in perfect rhythm.
Right. It's usually more like a car crash. And that is where the new age of learning hits the wall of reality. Steyn introduces a counterintuitive truth here. He warns that technology by default does not close gaps.
Okay.
If you just release it into the wild without a deliberate equity design, it widens them. And this is the inequality machine part of the title.
Correct. Steyn calls it the multiplier of advantage.
Okay, let's drill into that. Multiplier of advantage. Because the standard logic is, hey, rich kids already have private tutors, now poor kids have AI tutors. Doesn't that close the gap?
You would think so. But look at the behavior pattern. If AI is treated as a private purchase or a private adoption like download this app to get ahead, who adopts it first?
The parents who are already hyper-invested, the ones checking the grades every night, who have the money for the subscription, who understand the tech.
Exactly. Private tutoring has always been a multiplier for the wealthy. Steyn's argument is that AI is just a cheaper, faster, 24/7 version of that same dynamic.
So the student who is already in the lead gets a Ferrari.
And the student who is struggling gets, well, maybe they get a bicycle. Or maybe they're still walking because they don't even have the infrastructure to run the software.
So we aren't solving inequality, we are just turbocharging it.
We are scaling the advantage. And this isn't just a domestic issue. Steyn zooms out to the global stage. He cites a Reuters report on a warning from the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program.
That was the part that really stopped me cold.
Yeah.
Because for the last 30 years or so, the story of global education has been one of catching up, right? The gap between the global north and south has been closing.
Slowly, yes. But the UNDP warns that AI could snap that trend. If the wealthy nations integrate these learning accelerators, while developing nations are still struggling with basic electricity, the cognitive gap just explodes.
It creates a two-tier world.
We could see a divergence where the rich states race ahead into a completely different tier of productivity.
And one side owns the intelligence, and the other side just provides the data.
Essentially. And the Guardian report Stan mentions takes this down to the individual level. They talk about a social divide where children without computing literacy lose agency.
Agency is such a crucial word there. It's not just about getting a job. It's about navigating reality.
Correct. We're moving into a world shaped by automated decisions. Algorithms decide who gets a loan, who gets an interview, what news you see.
Right.
If a child doesn't understand how those decisions are made, if they are just a passive consumer of the algorithm, they are passengers in their own lives.
So in a well-funded suburb, AI is a tool you wield. You're the driver. In a disadvantaged area, AI is something that happens to you. You're in the back seat.
Or, as Stan puts it even more bluntly, for the disadvantaged, AI becomes another reminder of what you don't have. If you don't have the basics, food security, stable housing, good teachers layering advanced AI on top just highlights the deficit.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of why this happens. It's easy to say inequality and just wave our hands, but Steyn breaks it down into what he calls the 3 quiet gatekeepers. I love that phrasing.
It's good, isn't it? Quiet gatekeepers.
Yeah.
It implies these aren't the obvious walls we see, like a tuition fee.
No, they're subtle.
They're the subtle friction points that filter people out. And the first gatekeeper is access.
And I feel like most people hear access and think, oh, smartphone penetration is high, everyone has a phone.
But Steyn stops us right there. He argues that access is not just owning a device. It's the infrastructure around the device. We are talking about power reliability and data stability.
Right. Having a phone in your pocket doesn't mean you can run a complex, data-heavy, personalized learning module for 3 hours a night.
Exactly. If you live in a home where the power cuts out for 4 hours a day, which is common in many parts of the world, or if your data plan is capped and runs out on the 15th of the month, you can't engage in that flow state learning.
Steyn calls this occasional learning.
Which is the enemy of mastery. You can't build complex mental models on intermittent access. Meanwhile, the student with fiber optic broadband and a dedicated quiet study room has a seamless, uninterrupted flow.
That's a massive structural advantage before the learning even begins.
It's huge. It's the difference between streaming a 4K movie effortlessly and trying to watch a video that buffers every 30 seconds. Eventually, you just give up.
Yeah, the friction is too high. Okay, gatekeeper number 2. Let's assume we solve the internet. We run fiber to every village. We hand out batteries. What is the next barrier?
Gatekeeper number 2 is readiness. And this is where the tech solutionism usually fails. We tend to focus on the student. Is the student ready?
Right.
Stan says, no, look at the ecosystem. Are the teachers and parents ready?
Because an AI tool dropped into a classroom without context is just, what? A distraction.
It's a toy. Or worse, it's a crutch. Steyn argues that for AI to work as a learning accelerator, it has to be integrated into a pedagogical design. The teacher needs to know when to use the AI for drilling and when to shut it off for critical discussion.
So in a wealthy private school, the teachers are probably getting professional development seminars on AI integration.
Sure. They're learning how to prompt, how to fact check, how to use it to spark debate.
And in an underfunded system.
In an underfunded system, the teacher is overworked, maybe underqualified, dealing with a class of 40 kids. They're handed a tablet and told, good luck, this will solve your class-size problem.
And without that human scaffolding for the technology, the tool sits unused or it's misused.
Right. And parents play a huge role here, too.
Yeah.
If a parent doesn't have the digital literacy to guide the child might just use the tutor to cheat. Which brings us to the third gatekeeper.
Okay.
Trust.
This one feels like it's becoming the most volatile one.
It is. This is the elephant in the room. If families fear surveillance, if they worry about data misuse, or if they just don't trust the institutions pushing this tech, they won't use it.
And historically, marginalized communities have very valid reasons to be suspicious of data collection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you feel that an algorithm is going to judge your child or label them or sell their data to advertisers, you opt out.
So adoption becomes patchy and politicized.
Exactly. So you end up with a situation where the tech works, the power is on, but the community shuts the gate because they don't trust the Trojan horse.
This leads us to the part of the article that I found the most intellectually stimulating, but also, frankly, the most frightening. Steyn pivots to the Financial Times and an analysis by Anthropic. He calls it the cruel trade.
This is the core intellectual danger. We know that in the workforce, AI productivity gains tend to accrue to those who already have the skills to leverage the tool.
Okay.
But in education, the cruel trade is about the difference between performance and competence.
Break that down for me, because usually we think performance is competence. If I get an A on the test, I'm competent.
Not necessarily. An AI breaks the link between the two. An AI tutor can be optimized to help you get the right answer. It can spot patterns in multiple choice questions. It can guide you to the solution.
So for a struggling student who is terrified of failing, that is a lifeline.
A lifeline. They use the AI to get the grade. They survive the test. They get the A.
But they miss the struggle.
They miss the struggle. And learning real deep neural rewiring learning requires struggle. It requires confusion. Steyn warns that if we design AI tutors that prioritize metrics, just getting the score up, we risk narrowing education to what is tested rather than what is understood.
So the cruel trade is, you get the short-term grade improvement, but you trade away the long-term cognitive resilience.
Precisely. And here is where the inequality strikes hardest. The students with strong support systems, parents checking in, teachers who are engaged, they aren't letting the kid just use the AI to get the answer.
Yeah.
They're using the AI to explore concepts, to debate, to do the high-level thinking.
So one group uses AI to hack the test. The other group uses AI to expand their mind.
And that creates a hidden inequality that won't show up in the statistics for years.
Yeah.
You might see test scores equalize, but the actual capability, the ability to think critically without a machine diverges.
That is a terrifying prospect. It's the hollowing out of education for the poor. You give them a shiny tool that makes them look smart on paper, but actually makes them dependent.
It creates a dependency on the machine for basic cognition, while the elite use the machine to enhance their cognition.
Mm-hmm.
That is the ultimate divergence.
So what do we do? I mean, we've looked at the trap. We've seen the gatekeepers. Where is the exit? Steyn doesn't just leave us in the doom and gloom.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
And he points to the UK as an interesting case study. The UK government announced a plan to trial safe AI tutoring tools specifically for disadvantaged pupils.
And the framing there is really specific, right? They aren't just rolling it out to everyone.
No, they are targeting the gap. The intent is absolutely right. It's an attempt to democratize that private tutor advantage. But Steyn warns, and this is the takeaway for any policymaker listening, that intent is not execution. He says we need to stop treating this as a software rollout and start treating it as an equity program.
I highlighted that phrase in my notes. Not a software rollout, but an equity program.
Yeah.
What does that shift look like practically?
A software rollout is, here's the login, have fun. An equity program asks the hard questions. Do you have power at home? Does your parent understand what this tool is? Do you trust this tool?
It's holistic.
It's holistic. Are we measuring whether you actually learned the concept or just if you click the right buttons? It acknowledges those three gatekeepers we talked about.
Steyn also has some advice for school leaders that I thought was really practical. He says, stop asking which tools should we buy and start asking which learning behaviors do we want.
It's a great pivot. He suggests letting the AI handle the foundational stuff. The drills, the vocab, the immediate feedback loops. That's what machines are good at.
And that frees up the human.
Exactly. If the teacher stops trying to be a drill sergeant and starts focusing on motivation, mentorship, and complex critical thinking stuff the AI is bad at, then you get a partnership.
The AI builds the floor. Yeah. The teacher raises the ceiling.
That's it. But that requires a confident teacher and a system that supports them. It requires a shift in how we value teaching. The teacher becomes less of a content delivery system and more of a cognitive coach.
What about the parents? Specifically, the parents who might not have a PhD in computer science. Steyn has a message for them, too.
He does. And it's a hopeful message, actually. He points out that because many of these tools are free or low cost, the barrier to entry is lower than ever before.
But the trap, again, is outsourcing thinking.
ChatGPT, write my essay.
Exactly. Parents need to enforce the boundary where the tool supports the routine but doesn't do the lifting.
It's the difference between asking the AI, explain this concept to me like I'm 10 years old so I can understand it, versus,
Write this paragraph for me. One is active learning, the other is passive consumption.
and that distinction is free. It doesn't cost money to enforce that mindset, but it requires awareness.
It does. It really comes back to that central choice Steyn lays out at the end of the article. He says the question for the next few years is simple. Will AI become the world's most scalable tutor or the world's most scalable inequality machine?
And the final verdict he gives is that this isn't about the technology itself. The tech will get better. That's inevitable. It's a law of physics at this point.
Right.
The outcome depends on policy, funding, and deliberate design. It is not an automatic tech upgrade for humanity. It's a choice we have to make.
It reminds me of what he said about availability versus access. Just because the library is open doesn't mean everyone can get to it.
That's the provocative thought I'm left with. We tend to think that because something is digital, it's democratic.
Yeah.
Because it's on the cloud, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But Steyn's analysis proves that without intervention, the smartest tools might actually create a world where only the already advantaged get smarter.
It's a sobering thought, but also a call to action. We can build the scalable tutor, but we have to actually build the bridge to it, not just the tool itself.
Precisely. If we just build the tool, we build the inequality machine. If we build the bridge, we might just pull off the scalable tutor.
Thank you for helping us navigate this complex topic today. It certainly changed how I look at those headlines about AI in classrooms.
My pleasure. It's one of the most important conversations we can have right now.
And thank you to you, the listener, for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.